Good day, Internet. This is DTNS Live for Wednesday, April 2nd, 2025. From Studio Animal House, I'm Sarah Lane.
From Toronto, I'm Jenn Cutter.
And I'm the show's producer, Roger Chang.
Daily Tech News Show Live is made possible by you, the listeners, and sometimes the viewers, and hopefully you do a little of both. Thanks to all of you, including Chris Zaragoza, Jim Hurt, Mike Akins, and everyone welcome our new patron, Deep Forest Green.
Woohoo!
Yay! Not only is that a great color, but what a wonderful patron to have.
It was the most popular car color in 1992 and 1993.
What was the new gosh, I can't remember. Like the first Ford SUV that was
the Explorer.
Screen. Yes, I was like, I want one of those so bad. I was in high school, so I had no business.
Well, when you're in high school,
a large family car, but you know,
any set of wheels that takes you away from home into somewhere fun is desperately desired.
There you go.
A Jetta in deep shiny green, and oh man, I loved it. Except for the maintenance cost, but the beautiful color.
Green Jettas, yes. Oh gosh, yeah. A friend of mine had one. I wanted one so bad. We are here with Jenn Cutter today, and welcome everybody to DTNS Live. This is the show where we discuss the tech news to help us all understand it a little bit better. Scott Johnson could unfortunately not join us today. We hope he'll be back next week. But Jenn, we're so glad to have you. And how you doing up there in Canada?
Doing all right, minus the weather. We had an ice storm last week, and then minor flooding with the ice storm melting, and another one coming up this weekend.
And ice storms typically don't have snow interspersed. It's just
sometimes
cold.
It'll start with snow, and then you get like the rain that freezes immediately, and occasionally some hail in the middle, because why not?
Huh. Sounds like
sounds like a Roger. What do you think?
No. I'm just thinking like from freezing sleet and rain and ice to like hails, like it's just like a 1-2 punch of like I'm staying home.
I mean, for people who are introverts, and you know who you are, one of me. Sometimes on bad weather days, I'm like, I didn't really want to go grocery shopping anyway. Let's just get cozy. Watch a movie.
Uber Eats, where are you?
Or a hockey game. All right, so we are here to talk tech news, so let's get into it with the quick hits.
The New York Times sources say Amazon has made a last-minute bid to acquire TikTok ahead of the U.S. government's April 5th deadline for ByteDance to divest the app or face a ban. However, sources also suggest Amazon's bid is not being taken seriously. Other potential buyers include an Oracle-led group with Andreessen Horowitz and private equity firm Blackstone.
Wikimedia Commons bandwidth usage is up 50% since January 2024, which the foundation says is due to AI scrapers training models rather than human users. Bots make up of 35% of page views, so says the foundation, but consume 65% of the most resource-intensive content and can bypass caching systems and strain Wikimedia's infrastructure overall. The foundation says it's spending significant resources to block AI crawlers.
Bloomberg's Mark Gurman reports that Meta is launching its high-end Ray-Ban smart glasses, codenamed Hypernova, by as soon as the end of this year. These glasses will reportedly feature a built-in screen in the right lens to view notifications, photos, and navigation, controlled through touch gestures or a wristband. They'll likely target early adopters with a price between $1,300 and $1,400. Meta plans spatial computing capabilities with its Artemis release in 2027.
Roblox has partnered with Google to integrate rewarded video ads and other immersive formats, allowing advertisers to reach its large Gen Z audience via Google Ad Manager. Not everybody is Gen Z playing Roblox, but you get the idea. These ads, which users can watch for in-game perks, have seen 80% and even sometimes more completion rates. Roblox is also collaborating with ad measurement firms like Nielsen and Double Verify to enhance advertiser insights.
Sony unveiled its new Bravia 8 II, the successor to last year's King of TV A95L, with 125% peak brightness over its predecessor and a reduced price. The lineup also includes the Bravia 5 with mini LED technology for better contrast, the entry-level Bravia 2, and the Bravia Projector 7 for home theaters. Sony is also launching new Bravia Theater audio products with pricing details expected later this spring.
Am I the only person who thinks the Bravia 2 is a ridiculous name for anything?
It's genius.
I guess. I mean, when you look at it, you're like, okay, the 2 and then, Roman numeral
2.
Sure. But yeah, that's
They should just call it Bravia 4 and just be done.
Right. Yeah. Math. Apple announced that its iOS 18.4 update now fixes 62 security vulnerabilities, including critical flaws in WebKit and the iPhone kernel. Experts urging users to update immediately, so do that if you have not already. It also introduces a new default setting that enhances GPS accuracy. Not everybody would want that, but that's something that is possible now. The update also includes bug fixes for things like notifications, some Siri stuff, and Apple Intelligence, with similar updates released for older devices and other Apple platforms. All right, Jenn Cutter. Earlier this morning, Nintendo hosted its Nintendo Direct Switch 2 live stream, announcing system specs as well as games. This was highly anticipated, for anybody who's in, the kind of the Switch ecosystem and was really, really hoping that the Switch 2 was going to surprise and delight. So what are your thoughts?
Well, I am the person who was always going to be take my money. But thankfully, there is lots of good news. So I am going to run through all of the specs right now. We finally have the Switch 2 launch date, which will be available June 5th, which is way sooner than I thought it was coming. It will be $450 at launch, and there's a $499 version bundled with the new Mario Kart World. Pre-orders will start April 9th. As for the hardware, we have got a larger LCD display, 7.9 inches at 1080p resolution versus the OG 6.2-inch 720p screen. Switch runs up to 120 FPS and supports HDR. As for the controllers, the brand new Joy-Cons will attach magnetically. No more clicking and having to slide up and down, though I am hoping you gotta love the old school click sound. There are larger SL and SR buttons, and a new C button will activate game chat. Joy-Cons can also be used as a mouse controller for compatible games when you have them separated. The console features 2 USB-C ports, supports 3D audio with compatible headphones, and comes with 256 gigs of storage versus the way too small 32 gigs on the original model. The dock outputs at up to 4K with compatible games, and the dock has a built-in fan for people like me who have way too long gaming sessions. The gaming cards will be in similar size to the original Switch, but you will need micro SD Express cards for extra storage versus the regular micro SD cards. Now for the game chat, the C button on the right Joy-Con will pull up the game chat menu, which obviously supports game chat. You can share game screens. And the Switch 2 camera can also give you video chat, including digital green screen. The video camera can also be used in-game with compatible games, like they talked about how Mario Kart Jamboree will have some mini-games that use the camera, which are things that kind of haven't been done since the DS. The new Nintendo Switch Pro controller will also be available, also has a C button, and the newest, neatest feature for me is the GL and GR buttons on the back, which you can assign actions to. Usually I had to use a third-party Hori pad to get that kind of action. And thankfully, there will be a normal headphone jack.
Now, my first question about this, because I briefly had a Nintendo Switch, and it was gifted to a friend of mine's daughter who needed it more than I did. But the larger screen, I mean, I would assume that's a pretty welcome change. Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe makes it like slightly less portable, but probably makes a better gaming experience.
My biggest gripe with the screen is it's not OLED. Because now in the future, there will be another version that has the OLED. And I don't want to know what that's going to cost. Because already with $499 US, I'm looking at north of $700 where I am. And that hurts a bit, especially knowing LCD, like, come on, Nintendo. I know they're trying to keep it affordable, especially with how prices are these days, but like that is my main gripe with the current hardware. Also, they didn't say how much RAM is in there, which I'm more interested from a like background perspective. That is not something that ordinary gamers are going to care about all that much.
What's interesting about the Switch is, or at least the Switch 2, is that it just feels more iterative on the original Switch rather than a wholesale clean sheet. You know, when you moved from the SNES to the N64, clean sheet. N64 to the GameCube, clean sheet. GameCube to the Wii, clean sheet. Wii U probably left better unsaid, but Switch.
I think they learned some lessons from that one.
But with the Switch 2, they just took all the stuff and they made it better. They gave you a bigger screen. They gave you a faster refresh rate. They gave you, at least from the demo videos, at least substantially better controllers. And I'm hoping they use like Hall effects for the thumbstick, so you don't get the Joy-Con drift issue that have been plaguing people for years. Mm-hmm. But it really does feel like it's just they're taking the traditional model that everyone else has, whether it's a tablet, laptop, an Xbox or a PlayStation, where we're just going to take what we have and make it better for each iteration instead of sort of reinventing it each time. And I'm wondering, do you think this is a cognitive shift from Nintendo where they just like, it's doing pretty well, no need to rock the boat. Let's just give, instead of maybe gambling on a new feature or a new thing that may or may not work out.
I think they were extremely smart to include the backwards compatibility that they have definitely been harping on, so that everyone who invested in the original Switch, they don't have to throw it out. You've got all your games. You've got some accessories, no stuff like the obvious things, like the Labo, which was not a hugely popular thing, but like you had physical cardboard playthings and you put the Switch inside it, which is obviously not a thing you are going to be able to do with the larger Switch. But I don't think that's going to be as critical to people. Being able to use your older stuff, like I have a Pro controller, I still get to use it because you can connect it wirelessly. So that's a bonus. The games are a bonus. And for some of your old games, you can even get enhanced versions on the new system, which is something that Sony did with the PS4 to PS5. I play Final Fantasy XIV way too much. But when I put it on PS5, I did not have to buy it again. And there's an enhanced mode, so I can just play prettier and load faster.
Now with the chat, the game chat element, which is like the most substantial new interface feature that I saw outside of the hardware, I'm wondering, because people have always criticized Nintendo for lacking in this one key element that both PlayStation and Xbox have integrated into the games across the board, which is interaction with other players in multiplayer games. It's not that you couldn't do it before, but it was kind of clunky on Nintendo games. Do you think this is an improvement? Does it just bring them up to where everyone else is at, or do you think this adds some features that goes beyond what Xbox and PlayStation are doing?
This is a huge step from Nintendo's perspective. Like currently, as a Switch Online member, if I wanted to talk to somebody in Splatoon 3, what I do is I open the Switch app on my phone, and that's how I can talk to people. And I believe it works in Animal Crossing too. But now having it on the console built in, with a console and company that generally works very hard to protect their younger gamers, this is huge. This keeps people from using less third-party tools like, say, Discord. And with Nintendo's data tracking that they've implemented in recent updates, they're going to get a lot more information from people, but also they're going to have to start moderating. And I'm assuming it's going to be a lot of AI like Roblox is doing and other online multiplayer games with children.
Well, and then there's the Switch 2 camera, which we talked about. But if that was set up in, I don't know, whatever room you want it to be set up in, there is and I'm not talking about children, but just in general, like people who are like, yeah, I'm into this. This is fun. We can see each other. This does feel like Nintendo saying, we know that you want to hang out on these systems and play them for a while, and you're talking to each other anyway. So this just takes it to the next level.
And one thing I noticed, at least in the demo videos they were showing, the target audience all looked within their 20s, late 20s, early 30s. Like, I mean, traditionally it's weird because Nintendo's always aimed at a slightly younger demographic, in terms of gaining players, but I think this might be a tacit.
Think so? I mean, gosh, yeah. Animal Crossing. I mean, everybody older than me that I know was playing
I
that
know,
during
but
the pandemic.
It was hugely glommed on by young kids as well. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there was an element that, hey, we could satisfy both audiences.
There's a childlike, whimsical thing that Nintendo is very good at.
But I also think
All
maybe
ages.
it's a tacit acceptance that their audience is just that group is just getting older, right? The average age of a video game player is in the late 40s, right? It's not like a teenage young adult exclusive pastime. As people grew up with them, they get older, and I think a lot of these feature sets are sort of an acceptance and understanding that's how people interact now, right? You can't sort of do this sort of traditional Nintendo, we'll do it our way. But we'll, it's more of a, like, everyone else is doing it, but we'll take our spin on it. In a lot of ways, sort of what Apple was doing until they relented with the whole green-blue bubble, chat bubble bit.
They didn't really relent, but okay.
But with backward compatibility, I think that's a huge boon because now you get to play all your old games as well as add to the new ones, which are coming down the pipe. Now, I know they announced a litany of new ones, but what are the big ones that came across your screen that you were totally interested in, Jen?
Well, I'm going to jump to the Nintendo audience is getting older, and the big surprise for me was a FromSoftware game exclusive to the Switch called the Duskbloods, which is like PvPvE. So there's a lot going on there that is a kind of a departure. Like, there have been more mature games on the Switch before, but not quite promoted like this. And now that there's a lot more space on the console, you can actually play them on the console without having to use the cloud downloads. But yeah, so we'll circle back to that after. That was the big surprise for me. Super Mario Kart World, open world. There are not a lot of kart games that are an open world. Online racers are up to 24 players and dynamic weather. So now you can feel like you're playing Gran Turismo while playing your Mario Kart. Now, the Nintendo Switch Welcome Tour is kind of a mixed bag right now. We don't know what it's going to really be or how much. But I mean, even Sony included the tiny little Astrobot game so that you could play and test out the DualSense. Like, I don't want to pay for a tutorial on how to use my system.
It's weird that isn't included, even at a higher price point. But I don't know. There's a slight odor of nickel and diming on that one, and it seems just very odd.
Yeah, if that ends up being more than 99 cents, I will be truly irked. Right now, I'm willing to let it go, and or at least hope that it is included in your Nintendo Switch Online thing, which I have been paying for since launch, which honestly I've enjoyed, so I'm hoping to see the new features there. The surprise announcement to me on top of the FromSoftware game is Kirby Air Riders. Oh my God, Kirby Air Riders was an early 2000s game. Extremely niche. It was, hey, do you want to play a Kirby game where you're racing? Because you can do that now.
So Air Riders is like a Mario Kart, except you're racing in the air?
Yeah, and you've got the Kirby cast of characters. I have my original version. I refuse to sell it. It's just one of those like cute little oddity one-off games that like people kind of sort of remember in the Kirby universe, like Kirby Canvas Curse, which was one of the early DS games. So as a big Kirby fans, I hope this is the first of many future Kirby titles coming out.
I wonder
And then, of course,
sorry, Jen. I wonder if Nintendo was kind of like, we're going to sell a lot of these,
Yeah.
but
Nostalgia.
for kind of those legacy folks who just want the, like they're maybe like, I don't need a Switch 2. My current Switch is fine. Then I know a lot of the stuff can be played on both versions, but it does feel like it's playing to that nostalgia.
Nintendo has been pretty shrewd in how they manage to play up their legacy IPs, up to the fact that they're still available and they're still popular. Like, even things like, say, Tomb Raider with Lara Croft has been through ups and downs, and there are points in time it's like, I don't think they'll ever make another Tomb Raider game again, and eventually they do when someone else picks it up.
I didn't realize that was Nintendo.
But Nintendo, like, whether you're talking about Mario Kart, where you're talking even like Donkey Kong games, like you would think like an IP, that winds back all the way to the early 80s, would have played its course, but it's still around, and it's surprising. I mean, with Final Fantasy, I can see it because it's a generic title and they just throw whatever in the kitchen sink each time to kind of spice it up. And
they made movie. I mean, that was quite.
but like,
hey, listen, we don't talk about the movie.
The one
to the
movie.
studio.
But it was, very popular in general. I mean, look at, the Zelda franchise. My gosh.
Yeah, it'll be a new.
To this day, it's like, again, people are like, I will do anything to play whatever they throw at me, Zelda-wise.
Yeah, so Tomb Raider is an everybody thing, not a direct Nintendo thing. That is on all consoles. But Donkey Kong. Usually they've been getting away with just doing remasters, like Donkey Kong Country, all-time classic, one of the first games I played as a kid. There was a remastered version, but now it is apparently popular enough with people who aren't me that they're still making new ones. And hey, when you own the IP, you don't have to pay anybody for it.
And, it's not to say that I'm saying that Tomb Raider is Nintendo, but Tomb Raider is one of those franchises that has lived a very long time that I can find to be the most similar into the longevity in terms of, from its inception to its state currently, which is something that Nintendo has managed to do with not just one, but like several, at least a half dozen titles, right? Everything from Zelda on the Super Mario Kart. What's the team battle game?
Smash Brothers?
Smash Brothers. Like they managed to take all the same characters and just put them in different IPs, and they still work. And I for the life of me, I don't get it, but I'm not the target audience, and I understand that. But I'm very impressed with the longevity and the continued appeal, despite
I mean, there's something to that, right? It's for example, I don't play Super Mario. I mean, I've played it, Super Mario Kart, but it just. I don't know. I'm just usually stuck in the kitchen making somebody mashed potatoes. But everyone else in my family at Thanksgiving is like playing Super Mario Kart. Adults, children alike. People love this stuff, and a lot of it is because I don't know. At least in my family, it was like. It was, the adults thought that it was so cool, back in the NES days, I think my parents liked it more than I did. They were just like, "This is amazing! Look at this," and that carries down to little kids today. All right, a new paper from the AI Disclosures Project suggests that OpenAI may have trained its GPT-4o model on paywalled books from O'Reilly Media without permission. Using a method called DECOP, researchers found that GPT-4o recognized more non-public O'Reilly content than older models, though they acknowledge their findings aren't definitive. OpenAI, which has faced multiple lawsuits over training data practices, has not commented on the accusations at this time. And for anybody who's not familiar with O'Reilly Media, a lot of technical books. It's actually headquarters in my hometown of Sebastopol, California. But yeah, you if you have studied any kind of code or the tech industry in general, you've read an O'Reilly book.
And to kind of emphasize that, it's not just like a handful of books. It's like an entire like 2 shelves of a library level of books. It's like they have stuff on TCP/IP stacks. They have ones on basic programming, whether it's C++, Java, or whatever. If there is a technical manual out there, O'Reilly has a version of it in their catalog.
Yeah. And Jen, you had mentioned during our pre-show that you were also familiar with O'Reilly books.
Oh, man. When I started in IT, there was a whole shelf at work just about it. So in case we needed to reference anything, that was the go-to authoritative source rather than going online. Like these days, you can kind of get away with looking online. But now I guess OpenAI wants some of that. So it's like, oh, we'll just borrow from O'Reilly and then have people use us as the definitive source instead.
So a little bit, diving deeper into this story, if you're kind of like, well, what's the problem? What did OpenAI do? So AI Disclosures, the project, is a nonprofit co-founded in 2024 by Tim O'Reilly, who runs O'Reilly Books. He's the CEO, and economist Elon Strauss. They believe OpenAI likely trained its GPT-4o model on paywalled books from O'Reilly Media, which O'Reilly says you should not have done. You would have had to pay for that. We didn't have a conversation about it, et cetera, et cetera. In the paper, Tim O'Reilly writes, using a legally obtained data set of 34 copyrighted O'Reilly Media books, we applied the DCOP membership inference attack method to investigate whether OpenAI's models were trained on book content that wasn't publicly accessible. So basically, they were trying to almost like reverse engineer this and be like, if we do it, then we know that you did it, because otherwise, how could you have done this? In addition, he says, we compared the model's knowledge of public free to use samples from each O'Reilly book with paywalled non-public chapters from the same book. So a little bit of, doing some deep dives into what exactly is going on. Again, OpenAI, at least publicly, has not commented on this. OpenAI has been accused by, and other companies have as well. It's not just OpenAI, but has been accused by various media organizations of scraping their data. Same stuff that, even when not paywalled, was just not something that was
could have been accessed.
Exactly.
This feels like another drip in a very large bucket of complaints that people have, and at some point, to resolve this, there needs to be legislation. It's one of those things where the complaints are so many, and they're from so many different angles, and the people involved are disparate that this screams some sort of regulation, that sets this out. Because if they don't, then companies like OpenAI will be ad hoc, either not subpoenaed, but sued or at least brought to attention of like something that their model might have been trained on that was not allowed, right? You can either try to solve this in legislation, or you're just going to deal with a huge, endless line of people with complaints. And I don't think that is tenable in the short, or in the medium or short term. This totally screams we need to have legislation around this sooner rather than later.
Jen, where do you fall on this on this whole situation?
Well, a couple of companies have made deals with other AI companies, but I've mostly been watching the lawyers. If you're a YouTuber or a content creator, you know that if there's a copyright issue, you can be sued. And if you get sued and you want to claim fair use, that's an affirmative defense. It is still a defense. You will have to go and prove that this is fair use in court, and it is extremely expensive. With OpenAI claiming, or AI companies in general saying like, oh no, we can use all this stuff, it's fine. I think they're going to be put in the place where they are going to have to go to court and prove it. Now, courts are moving slowly these days. Everything is kind of untested ground. People are trying to link it to existing laws, but I agree with Roger that you're going to need some legislation, but can you retroactively apply that legislation?
And the danger is if you let this sort of simmer as is, and say you let it stretch out into 5, 6, 7 years, you will now have a lot of services. You will have a lot of spin-off products based on this that then become risk 8 years down the road, because suddenly all this sort of, all these lawsuits, class action lawsuits, complaints, and all that stuff really just become this huge movement that breaks that sort of kind of like nebulous sort of like, is it fair use? Is it not fair use kind of thing where, people are just like, I'm done. Let's all get together. We'll all like sue these companies out of existence. And, if you let it wait that long, the effects become even more detrimental. So it's in everyone's best interest this gets resolved sooner rather than later. In this political climate, not sure if that's on the cards for anyone, but it's definitely something that should be looked at by all sides, because it's not just an attack on OpenAI's methodology, but it's just it's a new territory that no one's actually really looked at, and as Jen said, people have tried to use previous legal cases as a way to determine where these things go, but I don't think those really apply in the way that they need to apply. And fair use is a defense. It's not actually any sort of legislated thing that you have. And so, sooner rather than later, we're going to see a lot more of these, before the end of the year. I guarantee it.
Well, if you have feedback on this topic or anything else we talk about on the show, get in touch with us. We are on all the socials. DTNS Show on X, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, Mastodon. On Mastodon, we're mstdn.social. For TikTok and YouTube, you can find us at Daily Tech News Show. Well, for most of us, a good night's sleep is a requirement for a happier and more functional day. If you don't need a good night's sleep, I don't get
You're not human.
Yeah, I just don't know. I mean, how can you not have a bad day? But technology, and we've heard this, we've been hearing rumblings of this for a while, might be throwing a little bit more of a wrench in the works. Roger, what's the latest?
So a recent Norwegian study surveyed 45,000 university students, and some of the findings that they found was that each hour of screen time while that person was in bed was linked to a 63% increase in insomnia risk. Not that they get insomnia, but increases the threshold that the likelihood of insomnia occurs, and 24 minutes less sleep. The researchers add that they've only established a correlative link, between screen time and lower sleep quality, but lower sleep quality, but no direct link that links screen time with lower sleep quality. So there is correlative data there, and I wanted to ask the both of you, how many of you, and actually the people watching on YouTube and Twitch, how many of you actively use your phone in bed right before bed? Like you're just going through your Reddit feed or your social media feed, email, maybe in my case, an hour's worth of word trails.
Jen, do you want to take this or shall I start?
Go for it.
Okay, so I am a no iPhone in bed person, and it's not really because I feel like if I look at my screen for a couple minutes, doing like my dog's Instagram account type stuff, that I won't be able to sleep. It's just that when I decide to lay down, it's bedtime. It's like, I don't want to put a movie on. I mean, sure, that happens sometimes in the living room type thing. But, if I'm actively like, it is time to go to bed, I've got a big day tomorrow, I need to get my Z's, I don't even have the phone in the bedroom. I've got my watch on, which I sleep with. So it's like if somebody were to call me and it was an emergency, I would get it. But no, I don't do this. If I were in college, that might be very different story.
I definitely do not have that kind of discipline. Earlier this year, now, like granted, there's a lot of international news going on affecting Canada. I have been reading news way too late at night to get the breakdowns from people I trust. But yeah, I eventually started using an app. Like, I don't love the iOS screen time management thing, so I started using an app that has better, finer grained tools. But I have at least started doing happier things with my phone at night. Like we talked about Animal Crossing. There's a Pocket Camp version on the phone. I have that. I'll play that at night and check on my garden. And Tumblr. Tumblr is my happy, fun video app. So I will do that in bed. But I'm also that person who kind of falls asleep to YouTubes every now and then.
Oh, I mean, I cannot tell you how many people I know who are like, oh, I will put on 12 hours of podcasts and just press play and it lulls me to sleep. I get that. I mean, I definitely get that. It's not for me, but hey, however you sleep is however you sleep.
It's weird because, like, anecdotally from me, this is totally the case. I started playing this game. It's the only reason why I have Netflix on my phone. But it's a game puzzle. I've mentioned this this game before, but it's a word or crossword puzzle game, a mobile game. And
Same thing.
It's I spend 15 to 20 minutes right before I go to bed, and then I'm not fully asleep, maybe 45 minutes in, and think, wait a minute, that's the answer. So I wake up and grab my phone to answer it. And then I'm stuck in it for another 45 minutes. And of course, this is, I look at my phone, it's already 3 a.m. in the morning. And I'm like, I really need to get to sleep. So I go back to sleep. But then I got to wake up at 7 to get the kids out of bed and to get them to school. So I only get 5 hours of sleep, and I'm super cranky. When I wake up, I'm groggy. I don't want to get out of bed, but I have to get the kids to school.
Which is funny because it's like you like the game, but at the same time, it's like
it's ruining my sleep,
it's pulling me out of this circadian rhythm.
And you add to the fact that the time changed, so you lose an hour, and everything is just like, why?
Well, you only lost the hour once.
You lose the hour once, but the effects, you don't, it's not like the effects are just one day and you wake up like, I'm impervious. No, it follows you for the rest of 2 months.
Well, yeah.
Well, up until the sun shows up at my door at 6:30 in the morning, it's going to feel like I should still be in bed. I'm one of those people, when sunlight hits my face, I'm up, whether or not I'm sleeping.
I'm with you on that one. I've got blackout curtains in my bedroom, in my current apartment. You can still tell when it's sunny outside, but it's pretty dark in there. If you want to keep it dark, that has made a huge difference. But also, I don't sleep in. It's like my cat's crying for food. My dog has to go out. Your kids are like, Dad, feed us.
Life. Right? When you're juggling life and life.
What are the days where you're just like, let's just sleep in all day?
I want to bring up W. Scottus One, who mentions, as someone who struggles with insomnia, this tracks, and added, I can't help it. I have devices in bed. And perhaps that's what I need. I need to lock them away right before I go to bed. Just put them out. But
and then you also have to have the conversation with yourself of okay, let's say that you go to bed, you sleep a couple hours, all of a sudden it's 2 a.m. You're thinking of some crossword word, which
is honestly, there's so many other important things in my life I should be thinking about, not how to fill out a 4-letter word.
You're thinking of all sorts of things, right? And it's at that point, do you just say go back to sleep, close your eyes, do some breathing exercises, think about sheep, whatever. Or do you just go I can't sleep, and then get on your phone or your iPad or tablet or computer?
That's the problem. Once I'm on
anyway.
it, even if I go back to the game and I say fill out and I finish that puzzle, I put it away, I'm still awake. I'm in bed with my eyes open for the next 10 minutes. And so I get back up and pull out the phone, because if I'm awake, I might as well be doing something.
Yeah.
And so there's this sort of kind of, a hamster wheel of suffering that doesn't really end until I really just get tired and fall asleep.
like for me scrolling feeds at night, I've gotten better of like, okay, I have 10 minutes, I'm going to scroll and then stop. And I can do that. But I don't bring a book to bed, like just a regular paper book, which I love, because I will read all night until I finish the book. So like, it's not just devices. Like, in fairness, I have disordered sleep to start with. Like, I had to go to the hospital for it, and they helped me sort that out. They sent me to cognitive behavioral therapy just to help while we were testing out medication and stuff. And that's like what Sarah was saying, like, you meditate, you do this, you keep a regular schedule, and like, man, I play hockey at 10:30 sometimes. So I'm off the ice at 11. I'm in the car by 12. I'm home by 12:45. Then I shower. Then I eat. And, it's after 1 a.m. and I'm going to...
And you're up.
I'm up. I'm wired. Depending on good game or bad game, you're feeling some kind of way about it. So
They need to up the hours on those games so everyone can go to bed at a normal time.
I used to play at 7 a.m. on Sundays, and that was another kind of awfulness.
It's, but I really do think because, and what's interesting is that the study, kind of wanted to hammer this fact is that it wasn't the app you were using that was causing it, right? It didn't matter if you're on social media, if you're checking emails, if you're playing a game, right? Mm-hmm. They all had the same effect, and that points to reduced sleep time was because you were displacing the time you would normally be snoozing with just increased wakefulness because you were on your device. And so, for anyone who says like, you got to get off social media, it's like, it's not that. It's just the fact that you're using a device, right? If you were watching old episodes of MASH on your phone, you were still up.
If you're on social media just being like, I'm about to fight with everybody for the next 4 hours, it's like, yeah, you're not going to go to sleep. You're going to be amped up. But that's not what we're talking about. It's more of just the screen time in general.
Yeah. The fact that you're displacing sleep time with something else. There are people I know that say like, I fall asleep to a television, right? They leave the TV on, they watch, and they just slowly doze off. That doesn't happen to me, right? Like, I will watch a show.
Keep watching.
Yeah, I'll keep watching, and I'll be super tired. My eyes will be red, and I'll still be watching. Like, it has to be off. And I think it depends on the person. I don't think this is across the board, everyone, but it really depends on the person. If you're that type of person like I am, you really need to kind of like wean yourself off and maybe drink warm milk right before bed.
Well, and there's this whole thing of like, you're not supposed to have, not too many gadgets, too late at night is going to, screw with everything. We're all different. I don't do it because I just don't want to do it. If I'm tired, I'm tired. But there was a time in my life where I would fall asleep to the TV. I found it to be soothing. I don't anymore, but like it wouldn't be the end of the world if I were to like nod off, if I'm comfy. It's more like my problem is more like I'm on the couch, I'm comfy, I don't want to get up and go to the bedroom, gotta wash my face in the bathroom on the way, like that's just stupid stuff. But I don't think it's screen time that is the problem. For me, it's just sort of like you were saying, Jen, it's discipline. Being like, well, it's 10 p.m. What do I have to do? If I don't have to do anything tonight, it's time to go to bed. Because, tomorrow comes early.
And I'll say this, ironically enough, one of the best ways for me to fall asleep is to leave my desk lamp on because it's like a 60 watt but very orangey hue bulb. If I leave that on, I'll doze off naturally and I'll wake up like the next day. Like for some reason, screens.
It's like the right color for
maybe it might be. It might just might be. And there's the whole thing about the blue screen filter on your devices to kind of help.
One of my doctors actually recommended one of those sunset sunrise clocks, which I've been looking at. There's a whole bunch of different kinds. I think Nintendo even released kind of their alarm clock that does some of that stuff. But it is apparently the light tricks your brain that it is time to go to sleep. Like Sarah, I sleep with blackout curtains. You can tell when it's morning, but yeah, otherwise it just looks like the exact time of day in there. But the good ones, because you definitely want more than 3 colors. Like the hospital gave me a list of like, here's what you want to look for if you want to buy this. And they were a little out of my impulse range, but I think for the longevity of my health, I should probably get back to researching those things.
I mean, maybe
yeah.
I just need a fuchsia bulb, and that solves all my insomnia issues. I doubt it. It'd be kind of nice. I don't think they make a fuchsia bulb.
I think on the broad spectrum of people who are, either work in tech, care about tech, or some combination of both, we all have sleep issues. And they're not all the same sleep issue. It's just, it's you're going all day. And I know for me, it's like I have no problem falling asleep. For example, last night I was like 10 p.m. It's time. Okay, night. And then at 3 a.m. I was like wired. Just like, I have to think about the day and I need to sleep, which it's not a super fun issue to have. But yeah, it's, if anyone out there is like, I have cracked the code, do let us know. Feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. Speaking of feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com, Joseph had some thoughts on our AI-generated fake movie trailer discussion that we had on Monday, saying, while they covered the news of how studios have stopped hunting these and started using them as a side monetary revenue, I didn't hear them discuss the possibility that the people making the content are doing so to learn new tools and basically build a portfolio of what could be done to get them recognition and possibly a job in the future. Joseph says, Mounty Alm is a great example of a fan who started making his own fan projects such as Dead Fantasy and Hallowed, where he used existing IP and then put them in a grand spectacle of what could be. That allowed him to get a job with a video game studio, which was then hired by Rooster Teeth, where he changed the way that they made animation and ultimately started his own IP show. Jen, I know you had thoughts on this.
I do. Well, I had a big nostalgia kick from mentioning Monty's Dead Fantasy. So if you recall the video game title Dead or Alive and Final Fantasy, you could watch the main characters from there, basically the women, have these incredibly choreographed fight scenes. Like, they hold up today, worth looking up if you are into those. But I want to push back slightly in that Monty, very, very talented, was a very talented animator. He was, physically, digitally making the stuff, designing the storyboards. Like, nobody was doing it for him. This was all his creative work, and I think it is easy for everyone to say, like, yes, you made this. Those are the skills that you're developing.
Yeah.
And there definitely is that aspect to it. I will say, it's probably not something you should fashion your future career on, but it's definitely a pathway to it. Mm-hmm. And I think really this is just sort of new technology settling into a space, and as time goes on, it will filter out into things that either people really studiously avoid, or stuff that just fills up YouTube channels that people block.
Well, again, remember, if you have thoughts on anything we talk about on this show, do send it our way. We love your questions, your comments, your advice. Feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. And we also love having Jenn Cutter on the show. Thank you so much for being with us today, Jen, and let folks know where you're up to lately.
Well, I think everyone should check out DTNS Briefing, which is a show we do covering about half an hour of the latest stories with context. And I got really lucky that today was a day all about Nintendo.
Love it. Yes. DTNS Briefing, a sister show, I guess, of DTNS Live. I don't really know what we call them. But for anybody, yes, who's following along between Daily Tech Headlines, Daily Tech News Show Briefing, and DTNS Live, we hope we're covering the spread of all things tech. But really, really nice to have you on the show with us today, Jen.
Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. And Roger, we have been looking through some show titles. What do we got?
Yeah, so everyone's been submitting some great titles and voting on them over at dtns.showbot.tv. At the top, we have Zoe Brings Bacon's Switch to Switch 2.
Get it? Yep.
Yeah. Nick with a C said, play your Switch 2 on your Bravia 2 too. Nintendo did, and Nintendo don't too, from DJ Bastic.
And don't.
Larry in Atlanta had Open O'Reilly, like that O'Reilly Auto Parts song that they play on the radio. O'Reilly. Side note, they did for a wedding, they actually sang that song at the reception, which is kind of weird, but I guess if you're a bunch of O'Reilly people, that's what you do. O'Reilly Auto Parts, that is. Switch to OLED or nothing from JPEG-84. A Woodland Critter AI theft from Fred819, because all the O'Reilly books had some sort of animal illustration on the front.
Yeah. I haven't seen one lately, but yes.
I originally, when I saw those books, it's like,
and they
is
were
this
always kind of, black and white.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, they were black and white illustrations.
Yeah.
And I always thought, like, is that like a book about like North American squirrels or wildlife? No, it's about like BASIC or
Squirrel
HTML5 or
3.2,
something.
the new, coding model.
JPEG-84 had everyone has a bucket of complaints. Fred819 with don't swipe in
Well,
bed.
that's true.
Screen time equals bad sleep time from Zoe. Lights out, phone out from C-Spawn. Life makes you sleepy. JPEG-84. That is so true. There comes a point where sleep becomes a commodity. JPEG-84 as well. Also true. And Switch to AI late nights and insomnia from DJ Bastic. We went with what, Sarah?
Well, we went with Nintendo Switch 2. You know you want one, from Stealth Dave. Now, you might be out there saying, no, I don't. But, I mean, wait till your friends get one. 4th of July party. You're going to be like, that looks really fun. Oh, wow. They're actually playing, yeah, we'll see.
It's
maybe I'll even want one. Hard to say.
It's very addictive. I will say that there was a period of time where I just sort of like eschewed video game consoles because they occupy too much of my time, and I figured if I owned another one, I would become a giant time sink. And I was gifted a PS5 last year from a friend, and I was like, yeah, I won't really play this. I've played it a lot. I've gotten to the point where occasionally I will unplug it and move it away. Like I'll totally detach everything.
Oh, just like I don't have time for this right
now. Because I will be drawn to it like
it's
a moth
too
to an
fun.
open flame. Yeah. And then my kids will get to it, and it's like, really, you guys need to do your homework. I get it. Is it Astrobot, the one with the little?
So cute, so good. The new game
so
is
cute.
great.
But my kids love it, and they don't even really play it. They like moving all the like moving the little Astro around, doing all the things, jump and all that stuff. But yeah, it's really dangerous. It's one of those things like I shouldn't get one of those because I'll be glued to the TV all the time. And in a way, it's true.
Well, I mean,
all of the dopamine.
I always also say, that I'm not a big gamer, which I'm not. But it's like I play my New York Times games every single morning without fail. And I play it with friends who are in other parts of the world, and we all, share like, ooh, I got Wordle in 2, that kind of thing. It's like, this, it's the kind of game that you want to play is not, it's very personal. It's like what resonates with you.
But it all hits the same dopamine receptors, right? It's all the things like I completed something, a sense of accomplishment.
You feel excited about it, like I've
with
10
crossword
minutes, I can do this.
And with crossword, the game I'm playing, it shows you a percentage of people who've completed it. So I'm one where it's down to 6% of people have played it on this particular puzzle, and it's like I feel like I'm doing better than like the other 94% of humanity because I've got to
it's
this
a pump
level.
you up type thing.
Yeah, I mean, granted, it's a pretty low bar in terms of like actual
Still,
intellectual
that's
skill.
that
but
dopamine hit either way.
I mean, you lie to yourself in all sorts of ways. Why not with a video game? And then also lose sleep in the process because everyone wins. But you know what? We win because we have some awesome supporters that support the show, and by supporting the show, they support us. I like to give a shout out to Bim and Purr, who both gave us each a Patreon raise, which is super awesome. Patreon.com/DTNS. And then over on Twitch chat, I'd like to give out a shout out to Rednick63 who followed us, Zoe Brings Bacon who is always cheering us on with bits, Baocow who's subscribed for 16 months at tier 1. They've been subscribed for 70 months. And then Technomensch who cheered us on with bits as well. And Morbius65 cheered us on with 100 bits. I would almost say it's Morbin time, but I think that's played out because of the movie. Again, thank you one and all for supporting us.
Indeed. And just a reminder, we've got some really fun shows that have spun out of Experiment Week over the last couple of years. A great example of this is Behind the Data, such a good show with Andrea Jones-Roy. If you're wondering how data shapes the world that we all live in, and and how to understand that better, Behind the Data is a great show. On episode 4, Andrea interviews Professor Patrick Egan from NYU on how quantifying political attitudes can help us all find common ground and reveal opportunities where we can make progress on areas where we're most divided on topics. There's a lot of division on topics these days, so this is a good episode to check out. Do so at behindthedatashow.com.
And I will add the information that Professor Egan provides is actually very, very insightful, and you will be surprised at how much closer people really are together than they are apart, like on a lot of issues.
Well, we hope you'll all be together with us Monday through Friday, because we're live Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 2000 UTC here on DTNS Live, and you can find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live. We're back doing it all again tomorrow. What will Rob and I get up to? Find out more.
The DTNS family of podcasts, helping each other understand.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.